Peace. What's good, guys? Let's talk about and discuss Impact Wrestling for March the 16th, 2023. But before we do, I want to give a congratulations to Scott D'Amore. He is now officially the president of Impact. So kudos to him. He didn't always make the best booking decisions, but kudos to him for getting that promotion. He's earned it. Also, Impact, well, not Impact, but Anthem Sports, they got a couple new people with them. One being Richard Schaefer, and he's got connections with streaming services as well as Viacom networks. So that's really cool. So hopefully he can help Impact, and maybe he can help Impact land on a decent TV station. That's the problem with Impact, though. That's their problem, because they're not able to be seen by a lot of people. You know, Impact being on Axstv is a failure, and it has been a failure. I feel like Destination America and Pop TV were even better choices for Impact than Axstv. Because they did pretty decent in Pop TV. They really did. That was a pretty okay era for Impact. You can disagree if you want to, but for me, that was a pretty decent era for Impact. But Axstv really hasn't done anything with Impact. And I mean, Anthem has the money to, but they just aren't going to, put a lot into it. But I don't know. But hopefully, Richard Schaefer can make some magic happen. All right, let's go ahead and get into the review. So we kick the show off with the first match of the night. Mike Bailey and Jonathan Gresham versus Decay. So Mike Bailey and Jonathan Gresham win via the Ultimate Weapon. And who takes the pinfall here? Not Crazy Steve, but my boy Black Taurus. And I'm pissed. Black Taurus deserves better. For me, they should really break up Decay. They're not over. Rosemary's still doing her thing. And it would just be better if Crazy Steve could be the manager of Black Taurus and have Black Taurus just go on a singles run. That would be tremendous. That's kind of what I would do. I like Black Taurus. He deserves a lot better. But Decay, they aren't as over as they used to be. When Abyss was there, they were tremendously over. But now that he's gone and he's with WWE, it's just time to disband the group and have them go their separate ways. Moving on. Josh Alexander, Rich Swann, and Frankie Kazarian, they're backstage, being interviewed by Gia Miller. So Josh hypes up the trio. He runs down their accolades and saying that they're capable of beating Bullet Club tonight and beating Time Machine at Sacrifice. So Frankie Kazarian, he discusses his history with the Mo City Machine Guns and Bullet Club. So he had a history with both teams, which is true. And then thankfully, Steve Maclin, he interrupts as Rich Swann starts to speak. So Maclin runs them all down and says that Josh is scared of Maclin, that Josh is only friends with them because he's beaten both Frankie Kazarian and Rich Swann. Makes sense here. There needs to be some heat added to the Steve Maclin and Josh Alexander feud. It needs to happen. Because right now, we're not getting anything. Moving on. Gia Miller, she interviews Giselle Shaw, who says she was this close, but Deonna Purrazzo is jealous of her and screwed her over. Giselle says Deonna will have a receipt coming at Sacrifice. Then Johnny Swinger and Ziggy Dice, they interrupt. So they make fun of Jay Vidal. Says and say that he's not a wrestler. And Swinger challenges Vidal to a match. Moving on, Steve Maclin versus Heath. Rhino was not in Heath's corner, which is kind of interesting, but who really cares? Because I don't really like Rhino. It's time for Rhino to be a backstage producer and get off television. Maclin wins via the KIA, which stands for Killed in Action. I love the name. Badass finisher. Badass name for a finisher. Great. Death Dollz, they're backstage. So, Taya is basically sending Jessica off to indulge in some bottomless mimosa. So I'm guessing that's alcohol, I guess. Okay, cool. Nothing wrong with having a couple drinks. So, she runs off, that being Jessica. So Taya and Rosemary, they have a conversation about what if Havoc finds out that they use magic to turn Jessica into Havoc. Turn Havoc into Jessica. Because they know how much she loves magic. So Rosemary says, that's fine, do what you gotta do. So PCO, he's back in Las Vegas looking around for Eddie Edwards with a shovel, screaming, Eddie, Eddie, Eddie. I'm just like, oh my God, what the hell are they doing? Please end this dumbass feud. Like, seriously. This thing should have ended months ago. Seriously, like, it doesn't make any sense. Next, Jonathan Gresham and Mike Bailey were in the locker room having a conversation, and I don't know what the hell Jonathan Gresham was smoking, but he wants to team with Mike Bailey. And I'm just like, oh my God. Jonathan Gresham, what the hell are you doing? Seriously. Mike Bailey sucks. He sucks. He's bland. He's boring. No charisma. He sucks. So they agreed to become a tag team under one condition, that they face each other again at Sacrifice. I'm like, oh my God, this sucks. This sucks. Like, Jonathan Gresham deserves better, man. Jonathan Gresham should be built up so that way he could be in the Impact World title picture in due time. Seriously. I think he would fit perfectly as Impact World Champion. I think he'd have a good little run. And it would make sense. But we all can't get what we want, though. That's just life, I guess. Moving on. Johnny Swinger versus Jay Vidal. Jay Vidal wins via a running knee. In the match, Deonna Purrazzo and Giselle Shaw and Savannah Evans, they all had a brawl. They were all separated by officials. Who really cares? Johnny Swinger and Diggy Dice, they're jobbers. Who really cares? Who really cares? They're just comedic jobbers. So, Callihan, he's backstage with the design. So, Diener, he talks about how Callihan attempted to join the design. He said that last week, Callihan suffered a loss to Rhino. That was to teach Rhino a lesson for him screwing over Khan at the last Impact Plus event, which I can't even remember what it was. I hate that. Can't remember what it was. It's not important. It wasn't hard to kill. But, so Callihan, he interrupts, and he agrees to take his punishment like a man. Makes sense. Although, hopefully, Callihan joins and they take out Diener. I'm not really a big fan of Diener. I'm just not, because the guy's been a jobber for years, and all of a sudden, just because he's supposedly murdered Eric Young. He's supposed to be some badass villain. Nah, that's not how it works in my book. That's just not how it works. Moving on, we see PCO. He's walking in Vegas, still looking for Eddie Edwards. Okay, who really cares? Moving on, Mickie James, she's backstage. She confronts Tommy Dreamer after she learns that Santino Marella has booked her and Dreamer to face Bully Ray and Masha Slamovich next week. Jordynne Grace, she walks up and she questions how wise is it for Mickie to battle Masha just 24 hours before their title match at Sacrifice, which I would agree with. But what I would also agree with is there's no heat to this feud. There's no heat to it at all. You can't have babyface versus babyface. You need a definitive heel and a definitive face. Your definitive face should be Mickie James, which she is. Your heel needs to be Jordynne Grace. Needs to happen. I believe she's been heel before, if I'm not mistaken. But they've got to do something with this feud. They've got to. Because right now it's boring. I'm just being honest. Like, Jordynne Grace is in this tweener role, and I don't like that. When a character is in a tweener role, I don't like it. You cannot blur the lines like that in pro wrestling. You need a definitive face or a definitive heel. You can be like a cool heel. You can be a chicken shit heel. Or you can be like a dastardly heel. You can be a anti-hero babyface, or you can be a lovable, likable babyface. And that's what Mickie James is. Everyone loves Mickie James. She's literally Impact's biggest star. Literally. Moving on, Eddie Edwards, he's out next. He gets on in the ring, cuts a promo. He says it's time to let bygones be bygones. He said that he's ready to let the past live in the past, but PCO keeps haunting him. Eddie believes that after last week, his beef with a PCO is officially over. So then we are shown a recap of what happened last week with PCO being hit by a car in the desert. So PCO, he makes his way out to the ring. Kenny King attacks him from behind. So Eddie and Kenny King get the upper hand on PCO for a second. He chokes them at one point. This is a long segment. So both Eddie Edwards and Kenny King, they throw PCO into some steel steps. He's able to set up and come back from that. And then Eddie and Kenny King are able to get the upper hand by a kendo stick. So they attack him with the kendo stick first. Then they do the Boston knee party. And then Eddie delivers a kendo stick shot to the head. And PCO, he's out. So, pretty cool, but way too long of a segment. Didn't really like it all that much. It was all right. I think the only way that this feud can end is, I don't want it to be a Monsters Ball match, because we've seen way too many of those within the last 4 or 5 months already. So we can't do that. I don't want it to be a steel cage. I'm guessing what we could do is like a last man standing match. I think that would be the most sufficient way to end the feud. That's what I would do at Sacrifice. I hope they do it. So Santino Marella, he reunites with his former tag team partner, Vladimir Kozlov, my boy. Nice. So Dirty Dango, he sees this. So he's not allowed to say his name. But he knows who he is. And, that's kind of odd to me, because I thought that Kozlov would have been bought the trademark for it to have his name back. Because he's been gone from pro wrestling for years. I can't remember when he left the WWE. I want to say either between 2010 to 2012, probably. I want to say 2012, but I have to really research that to make sure. But I've always liked Vladimir Kozlov. He was always kind of a pretty cool badass. You know, him beating Undertaker, was that in 06 or 07? I think it was 06 when he beat Undertaker. That was really cool on SmackDown all those years ago. I thought he was going to be something big, but he didn't really amount to much. But it's cool to see him in Impact. That's pretty cool. So, then my boy Joe Hendry, I believe in Joe Hendry, he appears. And he wants a rematch against Brian Myers. Oh my God, what the hell are you doing, Joe Hendry? So, Dango says that he's a big fan of Hendry. And then Santino makes the match official. Brian Myers versus Joe Hendry at Sacrifice. Maybe Vladimir being back probably is just going to be in a backstage producer role, which would make the most sense. I don't want to see him wrestling at all. I just don't. Impact does that way too much. We have too many old guys running around. Tommy Dreamer, Bully Ray, hint, hint, wink, wink. So, no, we don't need him in that regards. Next, Death Dollz versus the Coven for the Knockouts Tag Team Championships. The Coven, they win. So, Taya Valkyrie is officially no longer with Impact. She's now in AEW, which is great. Hopefully, AEW uses her right. She stayed with Impact for about close to a year. I'm happy for her. You know, I really am. Taya deserves this. WWE, they messed her up, but that was just because it was really during the pandemic era, basically. Like NXT 2.0 was just starting out, and they weren't going to push somebody like Taya because she's almost 40. So they're not going to push somebody like her when they're trying to bring in a bunch of young talent. So kudos for her to not going back to WWE, and I wish her the best in AEW. Hopefully Tony Khan does right by her. So that's cool that the Coven won. Now, I don't know who else is in the division, and what are they going to do with Rosemary and Jessica? They need to really split them up, basically. That's what I would do. But I'm glad that the Coven are the new Knockouts Tag Team Champions. Makes the most sense. Then in the main event, Josh Alexander, Rich Swann, Frankie Kazarian versus the Bullet Club. The Bullet Club, they win via the Art of Finesse into the fold for the 1-2-3 on Rich Swann. And Steve Maclin came out, and towards the end of the match, Josh Alexander had dumb babyface syndrome, where he just froze and didn't know, who that was. He forgot that he was in a match, and he lost. So it makes the most sense. So we're starting to finally get some legs on this feud. It's starting to grow some legs here. Trying to get just a little bit of heat. So that's pretty cool. Impact was okay this week. Could have been better, but it was all right. So on that note, thank you guys for watching. Please hit the like button, comment down below, and subscribe for more videos. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.
To the